Coming up on Mountain News this morning, some people in the Harlan County area had to evacuate last night when a privately owned lake started leaking. And Pike County Fiscal Court has now temporarily replaced an empty seat after a late resignation.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News this morning.
Good morning, I'm Olivia Calfee. The time is 6 a.m. on Thursday, February 15th. Now let's send it over to meteorologist Tim Drawbridge for a look at your forecast this morning.
Good morning, Olivia. Good morning, everyone. A good Thursday to you. A little fog trying to develop outside our WYMT studios, and temperature-wise, we're all in the 30s this morning. The Kentucky River continues to slowly recede there in the heart of Estill County, getting back down below an action stage this afternoon. Maybe a shower threat this afternoon. Widespread threat of precipitation. Yes, precipitation. As we head through Friday afternoon, more so into Friday evening, includes rain and yes, some snow. And we'll show you more about what we're thinking in just a few moments. Again, 30s for the most part. A few of us have dropped into the 20s, like Clintwood and Grundy, mid upper 20s your way. Clouds have been tracking up from the south and west. We've also got clouds coming in from the north and west. So we average out to being partly sunny today, but it's this system back in here that ends up providing that threat of a shower mid to late afternoon. Forecast highs today, upper 50s and close to 60 this afternoon. More about the first alert 7-day forecast, that threat of precipitation. And how cold does it get behind this system for the weekend? I'm full of great news this morning, right? It's all coming up in a few months. Right now. Back to the news desk with Olivia.
All right, Tim, thank you. Several homes were evacuated in the Llewellyn community of Harlan County last night. Emergency crews say a privately owned lake is leaking. A shelter was opened at a nearby church at the Llewellyn Pentecostal Church for those impacted by the flooding. Harlan County Judge Executive Dan Mosley says they have declared a state of emergency following the leak at Lake Llewellyn. Officials say the solution is pumping the water into a ditch that runs into the Clover Fork.
We attempted initially to place a board that would cover the hole out into the water by using just a stick and literally trying to see if we could cover the hole to stop the water from coming out. It worked for a few minutes, but then the whirlpool started again.
The owners of one of the homes in particular that received most, if not all, of the flooding says the solution to help with their flooding was to cut the road to create a drain for all of the water pooling in front of their house. Administrators with Corbin Independent Schools say they have grief counselors available for students following a Whitley County crash that killed a 10-year-old. 2 people died in the crash Tuesday, including 10-year-old Drake Sutherland. Police say the crash happened across from the Bee Creek Market on Bee Creek Road. Police also say another child was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. In Pulaski County, a former office manager for a Kentucky Economic Development Group pleaded guilty to wire fraud. Lisa Gadberry pleaded guilty after she was found to have spent company money on her finances. The Lexington Herald Leader reports Gadberry was federally charged with 1 count of wire fraud for misspending $142,000 from the agency over 5 years. Gadberry's plea agreement alleges she used the company's credit card on personal expenses between 2015 and 2019. Gadberry has not been sentenced. A seat left open on the Pike County Fiscal Court has now been filled. WYMT's Buddy Forbes has more from the county's judge executive.
Last week, the Pike County Fiscal Court accepted the resignation of District 3 Commissioner Orville Blackburn.
Commissioner Blackburn served a little over a year. Did a great job, worked hard, but he had some issues that came up and felt it was in his best interest to resign.
Wednesday, the seat he left open was filled with an interim county commissioner. Governor Andy Beshear signed an executive order naming Pike County Minister Jim Abshire as District 3's temporary commissioner.
Jim is a retired coal miner, Church of Christ minister, and served for a long time as a chief bailiff in the Pike County courthouse. well-known gentleman, and will be a good addition.
Judge Executive Ray Jones says the permanent replacement will be voted on in a special election in November, with the candidates decided by Pike County's Democrat and Republican executive committees.
That appointment will last until after the November election. The winner of that election, a special election on election day, would then, as soon as the election was certified, would assume the office.
Jones says he is glad to see the quick turnaround for finding a replacement, hoping to show the people in District 3 and the rest of the county they are not going unrepresented.
It's a large district. It's a third of the county. It may be the largest geographical district of the 3 commissioner districts. So Governor Beshear's office did not want to leave that district unrepresented.
Filling a seat to keep fulfilling the needs in the area. In Pike County, Buddy Forbes, WYMT Mountain News.
Whoever is voted in during the November election will remain the commissioner until the end of the term in 2027. After the current commissioners serve, the county will return to its original magistrate form of government with 6 magistrates. Lawmakers are proposing a new bill that would make it easier for coroners to cremate people who do not have the resources to pay for it. Coroners say the cremating unclaimed or unidentified bodies would be easier and cheaper than performing burials. The bill does not require that bodies of indigent people be cremated, but it will put the decision between burial and cremation on the government paying for the process. Officials say indigent burials have become more common in recent years, and taxpayers are the ones bearing the cost. The bill unanimously passed through a committee and now goes to the full Senate. A House Education Committee approved a bill that would benefit Eastern Kentucky University. They passed House Bill 407. It would allow EKU to offer medical degrees for practices and licensure in osteopathic medicine. We first told you about this story last month. EKU would be the first public college in the state to give out the degree. Leaders say the program would help alleviate the shortage of healthcare providers in the state. A bill that would limit how many sick days teachers can cash out upon retirement is moving forward. Senate Bill 4 passed the Senate 24-12 yesterday. There was some Republican opposition to the bill. It now goes on the House. The CDC may soon change recommendations for those who test positive for COVID-19 just ahead of the 4-year mark of the pandemic. The New York Times reports the CDC is considering doing away with the isolation period. Right now it's 5 days before returning to work or school. The CDC may require being fever-free for 24 hours without medication. One Woodford County health leader says COVID is still dangerous.
Relaxing, all of the requirement really just makes sense. It still is deadlier than the flu. 1.2 million people have died from COVID. And so it does not pale in comparison to the flu.
Prather says it's still important to get vaccinated. And some preschoolers from Lexington Christian Academy were spreading the love for Valentine's Day. The children paid a visit to Sayre Christian Village Wednesday morning to bring Valentine's Day treats to the residents of the senior living community. The kids got the chance to drop off their homemade cards and spend a little time with the residents, who were all smiles during the visit. The CEO of Sayre says community involvement means everything to those living there.
The handmade crafts and homemade crafts are the best gifts. I imagine we'll probably have to get a lot of magnets so they can get them on their fridges.
And this group was not the only group that stopped by Sayre yesterday. We are told another group from LCA, as well as children from other area schools, also visited the residents for Valentine's Day.
I absolutely love that story. My daughter, she made stuff for my parents, and her grandparents still have stuff all over the refrigerator. It's one of those things, we did growing up over the years. Our parents did it, or grandparents do it. I did it for my daughter too. So, way to go, kiddos. Make the older folks feel important, because too many times they feel a little left out. 30s on the board this morning. 40 at Jackson, 32 Irvine, 30 at Manchester. Satellite weather composite, clouds streaming up from central Tennessee. Clouds also coming in from the north and west. This system will end up providing the threat of a shower as we head through the middle of the latter half of the afternoon. But the combination of the clouds coming up from the south and the clouds coming in from the north and west means we average out to being partly sunny today. That threat of a shower mid to late afternoon and a forecast high in the upper 50s and close to 60 degrees. More about the First Alert 7-day forecast. I hate to say that. 16 minus 20 is, yeah, I think you know where we're going in terms of how cold it could be this weekend. That's all coming up in a few moments. Olivia?
All right, Tim, thank you. And thanks for joining Mountain News this morning. More news is on the way. When we return, there are major developments this morning in 2 of the 4 criminal cases against former President Donald Trump.